Welcome to the Paranormal Misfit podcast, where I dive deep into the realms of horror, paranormal mysteries, conspiracies, and the underbelly of history. I am your host, Chrissy, your guide into the shadows and secrets that lurk in the night. Join me as I explore the unknown, uncover the unexplained, and unravel the mysteries that defy logic and reason. Get ready to be intrigued, creeped out, and captivated by the stories that will send chills down your spines. So dim the lights, grab your headphones, and prepare for a journey into the realms of horror, paranormal, conspiracies, cults, dark history, cryptids, and secret societies. This is the Paranormal Misfit podcast, and I am your host, Chrissy, and also your storyteller. All right, everyone, let's do a quick mental health pulse. How have you been feeling? Anything that has made you happy, sad, overwhelmed, mad? I know the world has been in straight chaos mode, and honestly, every day I feel like I'm going through all of the emotions daily. Between the government and their bullshit, the complete genocide of multiple natives in their countries, overall gaslighting, it's just mind-boggling. While I understand and empathize with all of these depravities happening in the world, let's just take a moment and just breathe, right? Maybe reminisce on something positive that's going on for you, whether it was something very small, like, no, well, that's not small. Anything's big, guys. Whether you got a new job, got out of an unhealthy relationship, kicked that friend to the curb who's been dragging you down. Anything that feels like a positive, let's just reminisce on that for right now. And we're going to do a little bit of deep breathing. So, are you guys ready? All right, deep breath in for 7, and then release for 4. And there you go. All right, so enough with that little stuff, right? Let's deep dive into today's topic, which is the horror movies that I think really captured the Gothic, mysterious ambiance of Louisiana. All right, so I'm not going to have a long list, even though I do have a long list. It was really hard to narrow it down, but ultimately, these are the 5 that I think really catch that factor of Louisiana that everyone, automatically thinks of. So with that being said, let's get into the first movie. So the first movie is called Angel Heart, and it's a 1987 American neo-noir psychological horror film that was actually an adaptation of a 1978 novel called Falling Angel. So this was directed by Alan Parker, and it stars Mickey Rourke, Robert De Niro, Lisa Bonet, and then Charlotte Rampling. Now, what happens is this revolves around Harry Angel, who is played by Mickey Rourke, and young Mickey Rourke, guys, like young. He's a New York City private investigator hired to solve the disappearance of a man known as Johnny Favorite. His investigation takes him to New Orleans, where he becomes embroiled in a series of brutal murders. So really captures that, I think it was post-war, 1955. This is the plot. In 1955, a New York City private investigator, Harry Angel, is contacted by a man named Louis Cypher to track down John Liebling, a crooner known professionally as Johnny Favorite, who suffered a neurological trauma resulting in injuries received during World War II. Favorite's incapacity disrupted a contract with Cypher, and Cypher believes a private hospital where Favorite was receiving radical psychiatric treatment for shell shock has falsified records. So, obviously, Harry goes down, and he finds out at the hospital that the records show that Favorite's transfer were indeed falsified by a physician named Albert Fowler. After Harry breaks into Fowler's home, Fowler admits that years ago he was bribed by a man and a woman so that the two could basically run off with a disfigured Favorite. Believing that Fowler is still withholding information, Harry locks him in his bedroom, forcing him to suffer withdrawal from a morphine addiction. The next morning, he finds the doctor has killed himself. Harry tries to break his contract with Cypher, but agrees and continues to search when Cypher offers him a lot of money. He discovers that Favorite had a wealthy fiancée named Margaret, who had also began a secret affair with a woman named Evangeline Proudfoot. So here, Harry travels down to New Orleans and meets with Margaret, who tells him that Favorite is dead, or at least dead to her. So Evangeline died years before, but is survived by her 17-year-old daughter, Epiphany Proudfoot, who was conceived during her mother's affair with Favorite. When Epiphany is reluctant to speak, Harry tracks down Toots Sweet, a guitarist and a former Favorite bandmate. After Harry uses force to extract details of Favorite's last known whereabouts, Toot refers him back to Margaret. The following morning, police detectives inform Harry that Toots has been murdered. Harry returns to Margaret's home and finds her murdered. Her heart has been removed with a ceremonial knife. He is later attacked by enforcers of Ethan, a powerful Louisiana patriarch and Margaret's father, who tells him basically to get the hell out of town. So at his hotel, Harry finds Epiphany. He invites her into his room where they have sex, in which Harry has visions of blood dripping from the ceiling and splashing around the room. He later confronts Ethan, just kidding, in a gumbo hut where the latter reveals that he and Margaret were the ones who took Favorite from the hospital. Favorite was actually a powerful occultist who sold his soul to Satan in exchange for stardom. He got his stardom, but sought to revenge on a bargain. Oh, renege, not revenge, renege on the bargain. To do so, Favorite kidnapped a young soldier who was of the exact same age as Favorite and strongly resembled him from Times Square, performed the satanic ritual on the boy, murdering him and eating his still beating heart in order to steal his soul. Favorite planned to assume the identity of the murdered soldier, but was drafted and then injured overseas. Suffering severe facial trauma and amnesia, Favorite was sent to a hospital for treatment. After Ethan and his daughter took him to the hospital, they left him in Times Square on New Year's Eve in 1943, the date on the falsified hospital records. After hearing Ethan's story, Harry runs into the bathroom, vomits, and continually asks the identity of the soldier. He then returns to find Ethan has drowned in a cauldron of boiling gumbo. At Margaret's home, Harry finds a vase containing the soldier's dog tag stamped with the name Angel Harold. Harry realizes he and Johnny Favorite are, in fact, the same person. Cypher, whose name is a homophone for Lucifer, appears. His true nature is revealed, and Cypher proclaims that he can, at long last, claim what is his, Favorite's immortal soul. Harry insists he knows who he is and has never killed anyone, but then looks at his reflection in the mirror, and his repressed memories begin showing him killing Fowler, Toots, Ethan, and his family. And Epiphany came flooding back. A frantic Harry returns to his hotel where the police have found Epiphany murdered. Harry's dog tags are on her body. A police officer enters the room carrying Epiphany's young son, who Harry realizes is his grandchild. Harry then sees the child's eyes glow, just as Cypher's had at their last meeting, implying that Satan is the mysterious entity that impregnated Epiphany. Harry is later seen standing in the elevator that is indeterminably descending, presumably into hell. Cypher can be heard whispering, Harry and Johnny, asserting domination over both of their souls. I love this movie. This movie is gorgeously shot. Gorgeous. And what's funny, or a little tidbit, it's not really funny. So Robert De Niro as the devil is so perfect. He had these, well, kind of like my nails where they're long, and he's just like just tapping them along, like amazing. What you expect the devil to look like in human form. Lisa Bonet, when she took this role, had actually ended up getting fired, and she is Epiphany in this movie. She ends up getting fired from the Cosby Show because when she took this role, she was one of the older Cosby daughters, and due to the nature of the role and the hypocrisy of fucking Nasty Man, we won't say his name, just the Nasty Man, he fired her for basically being indecent, right? Which is comical considering what the fuck he was doing to people. Well, not even people, just women, right? Nasty fucker. Anyways, if you can catch it, highly recommend it. I watched it on DVD a while ago. My parents owned it, and I was like, what is this? And then my mom's like, oh, you've got to watch this. So I did. I usually take recommendations from my parents pretty seriously. They're usually spot on. So, yes, definitely check it out. Gives you the whole ambiance, gives you the whole feelings. Hoodoo, voodoo, Santeria, the mystery, the true mystery that like you feel when you're in New Orleans, or when you think about New Orleans, especially just Louisiana as a whole. All right, so moving on. The next movie is called Jezebel. Now, I found this one. Where was it streaming? I think I found this one on Hulu. I wasn't quite sure about it at first. It was kind of slow moving. Poster for it's absolutely creepy. It shows a girl profiled, and she's basically got two heads, right? Like, kind of think of like, what is that movie? Malignant, right? So this one is a 2014 American supernatural horror film, directed and edited by Kevin Gewert and written by Ben Garrett. The film stars Sarah Snook, Mark Webber, David Andrews, Jolie Carter, and Ana de la Reguera. Sorry. So anyways, the plot on this, right? Jessie, who is pregnant, is about to move in with her fiance, Mark's house, when their car is hit by a truck just when they're about to back up, just as they're backing up their car out of their driveway, killing Mark and causing Jessie to have a miscarriage. So it moves 2 months forward after that, and Jessie is now using a wheelchair, and moves in with her estranged father, Leon, in St. Francisville, Louisiana. She resides in her mother's former bedroom. Her mother, Kate, had actually died from a brain tumor shortly after Jessie was born, and Leon subsequently leaving her to be raised by her aunt. So one day, Jessie finds a box containing 4 videotapes shot by Kate. Addressing Jessie by her full name, she congratulates her on her 18th birthday and gives her a tarot reading about death that tells of a transition taught to her by a friend she met at a local church. Kate warns that an unwanted presence is haunting Jessie. A reading that turns out to be true, as Jessie does feel that a gaunt, black-haired woman is haunting her ever since she moved back in to her father's house. Jessie also has a vivid dream where she's strapped to the bed by her mother and witnesses a voodoo ritual being conducted where blood is flowing into the breathing machine that ends up choking her. Leon repeatedly tries to dissuade Jessie from watching the tapes anymore by breaking the first one and throwing her wheelchair into the bayou. So one day, Jessie has a frightening encounter in the bathtub with the same woman during a physical therapy session. After lifting Jessie into Kate's old wheelchair, Leon coerces her physical therapist into leaving the house. After telling Jessie that Kate in the tapes is not her mother due to the tumor she had, Leon attempts to burn all the tapes, but a supernatural force actually burns him alive inside the shed in the yard. So during his funeral, Jessie reunites with her high school friend Preston, but collapses after she sees a severely burned man. After Preston leaves from tending to Jesse, she watches a third tape. Now, Jesse is also married. Let me preface that, okay? So she watches a third tape, which is focused on Leon and Kate in an outing at their Christmas party with the announcement of the pregnancy. So Kate being pregnant with Jesse. And a fourth tape in which it is focused on a foretold tarot readings and Kate tearfully shouting, "You are dead," before the footage cuts off. After watching the tape, Jesse notices the woman behind her in the mirror. The mirror then shatters, and Jesse discovers a secret compartment holding another tape that wasn't found, obviously, in the box that she had found prior. And there's no label on it, and she opts to, at first, not to watch it. So the next day, Jesse and Preston head across a nearby bayou, which Jesse has been suspicious of since observing glittering lights and flames that appear there. The two discover voodoo icons and effects, as well as the grave of Jezebel, with the baby skeleton dated with Jesse's birthday, which they turn over to the sheriff for DNA testing. Jesse and Preston then visit the house of Miss Davis, the mother of one of their friends, and the Lawrence, former family cook, who speaks about Moses Harper, Kate's aforementioned friend from her church, mentioned in the second tape. Thinking that Moses may be involved in the supernatural occurrences, they head over to Moses's voodoo shrine in a ruined church, but are attacked by a group of men who force them to leave. The two return to Jesse's home, where Preston confesses that despite being married, remember I told you that part, he is in fact in love with Jesse. Go figure. Don't know why we needed a love story in this somewhere, but we did. Preston offers to let Jesse live with his mother, which she does accept. Just before Jesse can finish her packing, Preston is attacked by a ghostly woman and is knocked unconscious. Now, left alone, Jesse conducts a ritual to summon the woman. After the ritual, Jesse is called by Pruitt, who informs her that the baby was Kate's daughter, not Leon's. She plays the blank tape. Okay. Let's rewind real quick. So after the ritual, Jesse is called by Pruitt, who informs her, he's the sheriff, that while the baby is Kate's, it's not related to Leon, which was her dad. Okay, there we go. Makes a little bit more sense. All right, so she plays the blank tape, which presents Kate casting a voodoo enchantment onto a newborn white girl and committing suicide by gunshot, not before tearfully shouting that Jezebel and her father Moses are dead, attempting to suffocate the infant girl with a pillow and changing her mind to conduct an incantation. Jesse is confronted by Kate's spirit and realizes that the truth that her father was hiding from her. The videotapes were filmed for Jezebel, the daughter of Kate and Moses, as a product of an interracial affair at the same church mentioned in the second tape. Jezebel was killed on the night of her birth along with her father by Leon. On that night, Leon scolded Kate for being unfaithful, picked up Jezebel from her crib, and snapped the baby in half. After Kate mourns as she holds her daughter's now lifeless body, Leon pushes the baby carriage carrying her lifeless body and a porcelain doll inside the bayou, weighing it down with some stones to prevent it from resurfacing. Leon then drove up to Kate and Moses' church, where he shot Moses and sets the church ablaze. And then he also leaves him for dead, basically. Jesse realizes that she is the unwanted presence, being the newborn white girl adopted by Leon on the same night to cover up the murders. Swearing revenge, Kate and Moses plan to transfer Jezebel's spirit into Jesse, and Jesse is pushed by Kate and Moses' spirit towards the bayou and into it, where the biracial spirit of Jezebel swims up and takes her mother's bracelet, resurfacing back as the same white physical body of Jesse. Preston jumps in and saves her. She kisses him and asks her to take her home. When Pruitt asks Miss Laurent if she is all right, she replies, "It's Jezebel." So this one, like I said, started out really slow. Like at first, I turned it on. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it. I'm one of those that, like, if you can't capture me too early in the movie, I tend to get bored really easy. It surprised me. It was a good twist. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Revenge at its finest. Just saying. All right. All right. You guys ready for the next one? Next one is Antebellum. So that's a 2020 American black horror thriller film, which was written and directed by Gerard Bush and Christopher Renz in their feature directorial debuts. Ooh, hold on. So this stars Janelle Monáe, Eric Lange, Jenna Malone, Jack Hudson, Kiersey Clemens, and the girl from American Horror Story who plays... She's in Precious. She's Precious. Oh, I'm so... Gaborni. Sidibe. Sorry, I'm just... So this follows the 21st century African-American woman who wakes to find herself mysteriously in a southern slave plantation from which she must escape. Fucking fantastic movie. I mean, fantastic. At least for me. So it was heavily criticized because of the depiction of screen violence, but I mean, it's the fucking South during the plantation time period, during the slavery time period. Like, you can't tell me that the violence wasn't necessary. I mean, like, a whole rant on movies that deal with racial periods. Not that we're still not in a racial period, we are. But moving on. Okay, let's go to the plot. So in Louisiana, in a Louisiana slave plantation run by Confederate soldiers, the enslaved are treated harshly, not allowed to speak unless spoken to. Those who attempt to escape are killed and their bodies are burned in a crematorium. After a failed escape attempt, a black man named Eli watches as his wife is murdered and her body placed in the crematorium. The woman who had been assisting them later is brutally beaten and branded by the general until she submits to being called Eden. Whew. A group of new enslaved are brought to the plantation. Among them is a pregnant woman whom the general's daughter Elizabeth names Julia and places in the care of Eden. Julia asks Eden to plan the escape while Eden urges her to keep her head down. That evening during dinner, where Julia and Eden are forced to wait on the soldiers in the army, a shy Confederate soldier named Daniel is attracted to Julia and arranges to go to her cabin later. When Julia tries to play on his kindness and ask him to help her, he gets angry and tells her that he's still a Confederate. He beats her for speaking when not spoken to, causing her to miscarry. After then being raped by the general in her cabin, Eden hears a ringing cell phone. In the modern era, a ringing cell phone awakens Eden, who is a renowned sociologist named Veronica Henley. She prepares to take a trip to speak and promote her book, which is particularly hard for her because she has to leave her husband Nick and her daughter Kennedy. She has a bizarre online meeting with Elizabeth, which leaves her feeling uncomfortable, but she dismisses her feelings and cuts the meeting short. While in Louisiana on her book tour, she meets acquaintances Dawn and Sarah and agree to go to dinner with them at a local restaurant. Sorry. Whew. In the meantime, Elizabeth sneaks into her hotel room and steals her lipstick. Intending to go back home early in the morning, Veronica then leaves the restaurant, in which she believes is her Uber ride, but the car is driven by Elizabeth. Elizabeth's husband, Jasper, knocks Veronica out. At the plantation, Veronica discovers that Julia has hung herself. Enraged, she tells Eli that they will escape that night after being raped by the general again the following evening. She once again sneaks out of her cabin and steals the general's phone. Before she can call for help, she is interrupted by an intoxicated Daniel and another soldier who finds the phone but are not suspicious, believing it dropped out of the general's bag. When he is alone, Eli kills Daniel with a hatchet and retrieves the cell phone. As the phone can be unlocked with facial recognition, Veronica goes back to the cabin to find the general and is surprised to find that he is awake. So the general attacks both of them, and Eli is subsequently killed trying to protect Veronica. She stabs the general and then stabs the general with his own bayonet, unlocks the phone, and then uses the GPS to send her location to her husband. Intending to hide the general in a crematorium, she's interrupted by Jasper. Veronica lures him and another soldier into the crematorium and sets fire to it, leaving the 3 men to burn to death as she steals the general's horse and rides off. Elizabeth and another soldier are pursuing Veronica on horseback and revealing that she has revealed that she handpicked every enslaved on the plantation except for Veronica, whom she kidnapped at her father's insistence. Veronica knocks Elizabeth off her horse and puts a rope around her neck, dragging her until she hits the base of a Robert E. Lee statue, thereby breaking her neck. Veronica flees the pursuing soldiers into the chaos of battle, revealing that the so-called plantation is part of the Civil War reenactment park called Antebellum, owned by Senator Blake Denton, who was posing as the general. Denton and his comrades intended to use the park to reenact an environment to reinstitute, the practice of slavery using African American victims. Veronica finally escapes as the police arrive. During the credits, the park is later shut down by the FBI, the enslaved are rescued, and the park is destroyed. So, Veronica is played by Miss Monet. Jenna Malone is Elizabeth. Jack Hudson is Jasper. And fantastic. Like, it's a great movie. I mean, just when it comes to movies that deal with racism and the South, racism in the South, the movies tend to be a bit more violent because, I mean, that was the time period. That's what happened. Like, you can't sugarcoat that kind of shit. I loved the movie. I think it did great capturing everything. I loved all the females, female leads. It's one you should definitely check out. I don't think it's one that you should just be like, oh, no, don't watch that. Like, do it. Just do it. Later, maybe this year, I'll cover movies that are, well, this one wasn't really a horror movie. This one was not even a fictional, this was a historical drama. But if you really want to see, and this movie I just talked about was made in 2020. The movie I'm about to reference was made in like the early 90s and was fucking brutal. Like, I cried. I was a kid. It's a movie you only have to watch once, but it's a movie that should it should leave an imprint on you on how brutal and how disgusting racism was during these time periods. So the movie I'm referencing is Rosewood. It's got Don Cheadle, Angelina Jolie's dad. I can't think of his name. Oh, you can see him though. Is it John Voight? Is that his name? Oh, I can't remember. But yeah, that one. You want to talk about brutal? I mean, you want to talk about brutal, like To Kill a Mockingbird isn't brutal by nature, but the parallel to that, which was also a book, A Time to Kill. Like, it's it's not an easy time period to talk about, and it's not something you should gloss over, especially the violent part, because that's what they endured. And if you're gonna cover it in its whole entirety, or don't do it at all. It's just how I am. Okay, sorry, that was a little rant. Let's move on. So, where are we at? We're at number 4. This one was released in 2021, and this is called A House on the Bayou. This one, oh my god, was insane. Okay, so we got another protagonist named Jessica, or Jessie, or Jess. Okay, so Jessica Jess Chambers confronts her husband John over an affair. John admits to seeing Vivian Ballard, one of his students. John agrees to end the relationship with Vivian and to not tell anything about it to their daughter Anna. He agrees to go on vacation with Jess and Anna to help mend their family. The family travels to a house on the Louisiana Bayou that Jess manages through her job as a realtor. The family will vacation at the home while Jess prepares it for the market. Jessica and John argue over what to have for dinner, with Jess wanting veal. Jess then sends John and Anna to the grocery store, where Anna flirts with a boy named Isaac. The store owner writes a cryptic message on John's receipt that says, "The devil is watching you." John lies to Anna that the veal Jess wanted was not available, and they leave the store. Isaac soon appears at the house and manipulates Jessica and John into inviting him and his grandpappy, the store owner, in to cook a veal dinner, exposing John's lie. Over dinner, Isaac is hostile towards John and psychologically tortures the family of 3 with vague threats. Grandpappy explains that Isaac is a mysterious force, and he plays a record while Isaac is away. The disc plays a conversation that reveals John planned to leave his family for Vivian. John denies this and is goaded into going outside with Isaac, where it is revealed that John paid Isaac and Grandpappy to murder Jess. Isaac implies that he is controlling things now, while inside, Grandpappy insists John is a poor husband and father. Upon his return, Jess tells John that she is divorcing him, and she sees through his gaslighting. Isaac then tricks John into entering into a room and locks him in. Vivian shows up at the front door, lured there by Isaac using John's phone. Grandpappy forces Anna at gunpoint to burn Vivian, who's locked in her car for her transgressions. Jess burns her instead. Okay. In the chaos, John is killed by a coyote. Sorry, guys. Inside the locked room. Where in the fuck did the coyote come from? And Jess murders Grandpappy. Isaac threatens to take Anna for his wife, claiming that he's been alive for centuries, has been to hell, and is unsure if he is an angel or a demon. When he reaches for Anna, Jess kills him. Jess and Anna go to the county sheriff's office, County Sheriff Torres, to report the events, but upon returning to the site, they find the house gone and the terrain vacant, except for Jess's discarded wedding ring on the now field of grass. On the ride back to the station, Torres pulls over to let the perfectly fine Isaac and Grandpappy drive by in their truck. Fucking crazy. Torres confirms that Isaac and Grandpappy are not human, and that they clean the town of evildoers and sinners, and that Jess should take her survival as a boon and never return to the town. This movie, for me, was just, it kept me really engaged. I mean, the twists, the turns, it gives you like that feeling of like those slasher flicks were like kind of like The Strangers, right? Not The Strangers, actually, because that was just picked at random. But, you know, you go into a small town, got some iffies, got the crazies. And, you know, you're just going to kill the out-of-towners, basically, for whatever fucking shit that you assume that they did. I like the twist on this, where you're not sure if they're demons or if they're fucking just I'm not going to call it an angel, but if they're just doing some supernatural work, to know that the sheriff was in on it on the end, I just like it was a great movie. Definitely check it out. I think I'm not the only person. I know there's been quite a few, definitely on TikTok, maybe on Instagram, horror movie enthusiasts who have highly recommended this movie. I know TikTok for sure. You could probably catch a couple of snippets of it, because I remember after watching it, I saw the scene of Isaac and his grandpappy basically driving past the cruiser, the cop cruiser, and the girls seeing that they are still alive and like being so just like, oh my fucking god, I don't even know what I would do. Right? Just fucking insane. So, my fifth and final movie that I definitely recommend, and I'm sure quite a bit of you have probably seen it, it's always good to rewatch it, is The Skeleton Key. So 2005. It's considered an American Southern Gothic supernatural horror film. Stars Kate Hudson, Jenna Rollins, John Hurt, Peter Skarsgård. That's who it was. Okay, different story. Sorry, guys. And Joy Bryant. So it follows New Orleans hospice nurse who begins a job in Terrebonne Parish plantation home, and becomes entangled in a supernatural mystery involving the house, its former inhabitants, hoodoo rituals, and spells that took place there. I have probably seen this movie, God, like 30 fucking times. It's my favorite. Like, it's up there. Like, if you were to ask me what my actual horror movie favorites were, this is definitely in my top 5. I loved it. I loved the way it was filmed. I love the feeling you got from it. I love the creep factor you would get from it. You know, you weren't really sure what was going on. You weren't really sure who was the creep and who wasn't. Was it supernatural? Was it all in her head? Like, freaking amazing. I don't remember Kate Hudson in too many horror movies, but this one, for sure, is like tops. All right. So Caroline Ellis, which is Hudson, a hospice aide, quits her position at a nursing home and is hired as a caretaker in an isolated plantation home in Terrebonne Parish, Louisiana. The aging matron of the house, Violet, needs help looking after her husband Benjamin, who is mostly paralyzed from an apparent stroke. At the insistence of the family estate's lawyer Luke Marshall, who is played by Peter Skarsgård, Caroline accepts the position. After Ben attempts to escape his room, which is John Hurt, during a storm, Caroline investigates the house attic where Violet said Ben suffered his stroke. She uses the skeleton key, which Violet did give her. She discovers a secret room filled with ritual paraphernalia. Caroline confronts Violet, who reveals that the room used to belong to 2 African American servants who were employed at the house 90 years before. The servants, Mama Cecil and Papa Justify, were renowned hoodoo practitioners, and they were lynched after conducting a ritual with the owner's 2 children, from whom Violet and Ben later bought the house. Violet tells Caroline that they keep no mirrors in the house because they see the reflections of Cecile and Justify in them. Caroline borrows a phonograph record from the attic, Conjure Up Sacrifice, a recording of Papa Justify reciting the hoodoo ritual. So Caroline basically concludes to herself that Ben's stroke was caused by hoodoo, but believes that his paralytic state is a nocebo effect induced by his own belief rather than something supernatural. Rather than taking the advice, I scratched my hand. Taking the advice from her friend Jill, Caroline visits a hidden hoodoo shop in a nearby laundromat where a hoodoo woman gives her tools and instructions to cure Ben. Hold on. Whew. After she conducts the ritual, Ben regains some ability to move and speak, and he begs Caroline to get him away from Violet. Caroline tells Luke she's suspicious of Violet, but he, Luke, remains skeptical. As they travel to the gas station that Caroline previously noted was lined with brick dust, she was told as a hoodoo defense, supposedly no one who means one harm can pass a line of brick dust. She asks one of the proprietors, a blind woman, about the conjure of sacrifice, and what she learns is a spell wherein the caster seals the remaining years of life from the victim. Steals the remaining years of life from the victim. Increasingly convinced of the hoodoo's authenticity, Caroline fears that Violet will soon cast a spell on Ben. Caroline discovers that Violet is unable to pass a line of brick dust laid across one of the house doorways, confirming her suspicions. She incapacitates Violet and attempts to escape the house with Ben, but the front gate is chained shut. Caroline hides Ben on the property and enters Luke's office for help. Luke, revealed to be Violet's accomplice, brings Caroline back to the house. Caroline escapes, gets into a fight with Violet, and violently pushes her down the stairs, breaking her legs in the process. With the strategic use of brick dust, Caroline flees to the attic, calling 911 and Jill for help, and casts what she believes is the protective spell. Violet, having caught up with her, reveals she actually trapped herself inside a protective circle. Violet pushes a full-length mirror at Caroline, which reflects the original owner's daughter, then Violet, and last Mama Cecile. A recording of the Conjure of Sacrifices plays, and the two switch bodies. Violet, revealed to be Mama Cecile, who had been occupying Violet's body through the conjure, wakes up in Caroline's body and force feeds Caroline, now in Violet's body, a potion that induces stroke-like paralytic state like Ben's. Luke, who is actually Papa Justify, arrives upstairs, revealing that Mama Cecile and Papa Justify had been conducting the Conjure of Sacrifice on new people since their supposed deaths. They had swapped places with the two children just before the lynching. Because hoodoo is supposedly only effective on those who believe in it, Cecile and Justify had to wait for Caroline to come to believe in hoodoo through her own investigation. Emergency services arrive the next morning and take Caroline and Ben away, trapped in the paralyzed, dying bodies. When Jill arrives, Luke tells her that they left the house to Caroline, ensuring that Cecil and Justify will continue to occupy the house. The twist in this movie, I fucking loved it. So yes, of all movies that encompass that mysterious factor and Gothic feel of Louisiana, New Orleans, wherever, just the whole state itself, to me, a Skeleton Key. The others definitely, this one for sure. And it's funny, I'm sure some of you are going to be like, why didn't you talk about Interview with the Vampire? Interview with the Vampire was revolving around it, but had nothing to do with, at least to me, had nothing really to do with the historical factors of Louisiana. It was literally just following around some vampires. Not saying the vampires weren't part of it, because you do have the Casket Girls in Louisiana. But this movie for sure is that movie. Interview with the Vampire is in Louisiana, but it's not showing you the feel, essentially, of Louisiana, at least to me. Could be wrong for everybody else, but to me, that's how it feels. So, yeah. Let me know, guys, whether you send me a DM on Instagram, or you personally email me, or you leave a comment on this episode, wherever you're streaming at. What movies do you think give you, that encompass that mysterious, that Gothic, that I don't know, just encompasses the true feeling of Louisiana. Tell me what you thought about these choices that I have. Have you seen any of them? What were your thoughts on them? So yeah, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the shadows and secrets. Until next time, stay curious, stay brave, and remember the darkness holds the keys to enlightenment, and that the truth is often stranger than fiction. This is Chrissy, signing off.